Our next topic is a discussion aimed at early career researchers, where we are going to ask our 4 keynote speakers to please come and take your chairs in the panel just here. And we will have a panel discussion on careers, looking to impart advice to early career researchers. So please do come and join me. Hyping. How long would we like to allocate to this?
I think 30 minutes.
We're happy to do that.
30 minutes.
Okay. Welcome all. To introduce myself, my name's Pete. I'm a researcher in a company called Nokia Bell Labs. And today it's my pleasure to host this panel on navigating careers in research. So as I say, we're looking to provide advice to early career researchers. And in particular, I'd ask you to reflect on your careers, think about what has shaped your careers, and think, what do you think you have learnt which could be useful to pass on to early career researchers? So just to start, could I ask the 4 panel members if you'd be happy to briefly introduce yourselves? Thank you.
Please, to save time, can we speak only for Emily? Because I think we have keynotes already. Please, save some time just for Emily to introduce herself.
Sure.
Oh, okay.
Is it working? The mic?
Possibly not.
It's working, just issue by the control room. Yeah, so they will.
Okay. Okay, great. I'm Emine Yılmaz. I'm a professor of computer science and an Ellis Fellow at University College London. I also work as an Amazon scholar for Amazon. And my research interests are on natural language processing and information retrieval. And I've been working both in academia and in the industry for almost 13 years now. Before starting my academic position, I was working as an industrial researcher. So I'll tell you a bit more about my career journey later.
Thank you very much. Okay. In the interest of time, please just do recap your names for us all, starting with Anna.
Hi, I'm Anna Barnes.
Hi, I'm Pierre, Kirk reporting.
Hello, I'm Ronghui Liu.
Thank you very much. So our first question is, if you could give one piece of advice to your younger self when you were an early career researcher, what would it be?
Should I start? Okay. I think for me, I had a hard time initially deciding between industrial research labs and academia. And it was quite hard because I started my career as a postdoc at Microsoft Research. Then I stayed as a full-time researcher. Then I really had a difficult time deciding whether I should move to academia or I should stay in the industry. But one thing I noticed is, as I mentioned, I've been working both in academia and in the industry. I have dual positions. Ever since I started at UCL, I've had dual positions with the industry. I think one thing I would say is don't think that it's one way or another. You can easily switch from one institution, one career, like research in the industry to academia. And you can have, especially now, lots of academics have positions in the industry. And lots of industrial researchers have honorary positions or adjunct positions in academia. So it's not just one or the other. You can have involvement both, and actually, for me at least, I think it's a great advantage for my research that I have both positions. I learn a lot from industry, the research I do with the industry, what real problems they are facing, and I learn a lot from the environment at the university, the latest advancements in research, from my students at the university. So I think really both having this a foot in both worlds is a big benefit, and that's what I would say if I were to give an advice to my early self.
Very helpful. I'm sure I'm not the only one here who has considered the same question. Would anyone else care to offer some advice to your earlier self?
I think my answer has already been stolen, but I just want to add a little bit bit to that. I think the pathway can be very different for different people. And so, yes, you should have some kind of target, but how you get there could be very different for different people. So I cite an example. So in my team, we've got people who are engineers like myself. So I started as a mechanical engineer, and then my role started from sort of doing condition monitoring with engineering-based approaches, and then shifted into kind of AI digital. But I have other people in my team who are pure data scientists. I've got mathematician in my team. I've got someone with a PhD in biology. But because of the application of AI in sort of like interpreting imaging, he is a very valuable member of my team. So you don't necessarily have to follow the same path as everyone else. But whatever you're doing can lead to a very useful goal, regardless of the industry, regardless of whether it's in academia or industry.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have something. So guaranteed that in 20 years' time, you will not be where you think you are going to be now. Define your own success. It doesn't matter about job titles, and concentrate on what you're doing in your job. That's what I would say to you guys.
Thank you, Anna. Apologies. Would you just expand on concentrate on what you're doing in your job?
Yeah, so remain curious, and it's about the question that you're asking, right? Okay, so what research project are you working on and why? So I've moved all over the place, moved sideways, but it was because I was interested in the subject, not in the job title. And that's why I've ended up where I am.
Thank you.
Yes, what I'm going to say echo quite a lot to what my panel members have already said. What I can add is, I think especially for young PhDs as you study, what you're learning is really the basics, foundations, and get the foundation right, and then what is out there, and not be afraid to try different problems or even different field as well. I won't go too far back to my background, but even just in transport, people tend to work on the road segment or marine transportation or railway or other. But I think with the skill you have, it's very much finding, as Anna mentioned just now, and also earlier in her presentation as well, finding a good question, really formulating that questions, and then see how your skills and knowledge you learned can be applied there.
Thank you. So when you say you could change field, do you see the foundation as transferable skills for research rather than knowledge about a particular domain?
I think, yes, a bit of both, yes. I said I wouldn't perhaps mention I'm not a very good example. I really jumped from sky to the ground. My background was in astronomy. I'm now in transport, but then that was for a personal reason rather than a particular career choice. But it still shows that you can make a second career if personal circumstances or other circumstances force you to do it. But with the foundation you have, but the drive to try to solve a problem, I think that's more important than perhaps the skills.
Excellent. Thank you very much. We will move on to our second question, which is, have there been any unexpected opportunities or setbacks that have shaped your career? And if so, can you tell us about them? Tell us about how you turn them into progress.
Well, I guess I just said one. career change for personal reason. It was a setback, but I'd say hindsight that's also opportunity now for me to also research something very interesting too. I guess opportunity setbacks happens all the time in academia. Some to do with ourselves, the skill set, etc., but quite lots to do with the environment, our funding opportunities and job opportunities there. I think that's where resilience, adaptability really plays as something in yourself, resilience, and be willing to adapt. That would drive you.
Thank you.
I think I'm going to pretend there are no setbacks and just focus on the opportunities. So, like I said earlier, my research area was more focused on engineering type applications for condition monitoring. But as part of our catapult, we saw the trend of AI coming, and we saw the opportunities. So back then, maybe 7-8 years ago, there wasn't any team looking at digital, data and digital. So we saw that opportunity. We saw how can you bring that opportunity to fruition. And I think that plays in part to what's been said already with when you identify opportunities, maybe being a little brave to go ahead and pursue it. And in this particular case, we pursue that potential opportunity. And right now, there's a dedicated team focused on data and digital doing all this work. That just comes from identifying an opportunity. And it does take time. We haven't got to where we are in a short time. It's taken many years, and trying to convince people in traditional engineering roles, to convince them the value that you can add. But it's definitely worth being kind of persistent there. And not to, in terms of the drawback, I wouldn't say a massive drawback, but when you make AI tools for condition monitoring, they don't always work. So I would say that for me, the biggest joy I've had from my career has been sort of like customers or partners coming back and saying, we detected a fault with the algorithm you made. But there's been cases where they've just gone, well, it doesn't work. So just being resilient and kind of keep going, because that might not be the right opportunity, but another one will come along.
Thank you. Opportunities, setbacks?
Yeah. I like you, I'm not going to dwell on the setbacks, but I certainly made opportunities out of them when they happened. Okay, yes, opportunities. I have no shame. I will just email people that I'm interested in talking to. So even as a young researcher, if I read a paper that I really enjoyed, I would write to the corresponding author or the senior author. The other thing was that I didn't listen to other people around me much. Going back to what I said about just being really interested in the subject matter. So I had, back in the 90s, I was quite unconventional, as a medical physicist, because I was really interested in image analysis and statistics, and was sort of the precursor of big data and AI and things, whereas a lot of my colleagues were not interested in that at all. And it turned out that I accidentally chose the right direction to go in. But that was because I was really genuinely interested in it. So those are the two things about opportunities. Oh, and also the other thing is join a professional society. So I joined the Institute of Physics and Engineering Medicine long time ago, and also the Institute of Physics, and they've given me amazing opportunities. So there are no strangers out there, just people you haven't met yet, and professional societies is the way to do it.
Thank you.
I can tell a bit about my experience in entrepreneurship, actually, as a setback. So when I moved to academia, I was interested in founding my own company, and we did found a startup called usercontext.ai with one of my PhD students, and we failed. Those of you who are interested in startups, you probably know it's a very different thing. Like, to be successful in forming your own company requires lots of skills that you may not necessarily be trained for in academia, in research. And it was a great learning experience, actually. And later on, after this failure, I co-founded another company called Human Loop, which was successfully selected for the Y Combinator and recently acquired by Anthropic. And so I think that's an example about resilience, like being persistent about setbacks and seeing them as opportunities, as learning opportunities, because these things happen a lot. Like, with papers, you may fail, you may not be able to find a solution to a research problem you are working on. You may have this type of failures, like in companies you form and things like that. But if you are persistent and if you see that as a learning experience, at the end, somehow it will turn into an opportunity for you.
Thank you. So I think we have about 10 minutes left, and I would like to open up to the floor. So please do think, is there a question you'd like to ask our panel about careers? Is there an area you'd like them to comment on? Would anyone be happy to help take the microphones around? Any questions so far?
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your experience. I have a question related to this industry side and research side of it. I'm really new to this field. I'm also going through this transition. So yeah. So what I'm trying to ask is basically, what should a early researcher or a industry professional should focus more on? There is a industry job that basically aligns to a certain thing, certain domain, and there is a lot to work and research on. So, in your experience, like, how did you manage the early side of the hustle between industry and research? So, any pointers on that?
Sorry, is the question like what research topic, how to pick the research topic and the...
Yeah, kind of how to maintain a domain or a field while going through this industry and the research, both sides of it.
Yeah. One thing I think is to be able to go deep a little bit, like especially at the very beginning, instead of being all over the place, it's good to pick a job, research topic or a job where you can really have an impact on a particular area. And in your research, try to be known for something, I would say. During your PhD, you probably focused on something, but now after your PhD is a time that you are really known for instance, something independent as an independent researcher. So that's what I would recommend. Try to have an impact, but try to be known. Don't try to be everywhere, like to do everything very well, collaborate extensively with lots of other people, for instance. And in the industry, as if you are aiming for an industrial position, of course, if your goal is to stay in the industry, there are different ways of doing it. One is, of course, publishing, but there are lots of industrial positions, industrial research positions, where the focus is not necessarily publication, and there are lots of them lately, and these are still quite good positions. I do see that when people are fresh PhD, like out of PhD, their focus can be just publications, for instance. Try to be open, basically, in terms of what impact is and how you could affect. Your impact could be through publications. Your impact could be building a product that many people use.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's really helpful.
Just to add to that, concentrate on what your strengths are and what you enjoy doing. I hate writing. I really, really hate it. It's not that I'm bad at it. I just hate it. So I chose jobs where I didn't have to publish all the time. I mean, I have published papers, but it's not something I enjoy. So the NHS, and I did a bit of industry work as well, working in an R&D team. So just what is it that you enjoy doing, and what will someone be willing to pay you to do?
Thank you.
I suppose what I'd like to add to that is that maybe I'm going to slander academia a bit because I'm in industry, but the question or the areas of interest can look very similar, but what I find in my experience, for example, is that research questions for industry and academia can have maybe slightly different perspectives to it. So often when I have things like PhD students, perhaps when I was one myself, the focus is on fundamental understanding, whereas a lot of times in industry, they are looking on broader results. So that really affects which kind of direction. So you have to judge on like your interest. Where do you want to make your biggest impact? Whether you want to make your biggest impact in terms of having like fundamental understanding of how, let's say, a model works, or whether the model is making a very big impact in industry. And I think that should be able to help kind of guide you in that way.
Do we have other questions, areas for discussion? Oh, thank you.
I'm going to go. My question is around what you perceive the role of your network to be throughout your career. Like maybe when you were still quite early career, maybe the people you went and did your PhD with in your lab, all the way through to the point that you're at now, maybe how that changed and what role that played?
That's an excellent question. I love that. You know, I was at a careers day recently at my stepdaughter's girls' school, and you know, I'd sort of give a potted version of my career, and one of the girls said to me, "Oh, do you ever get lonely?" And it was such a good question, and I stopped for a moment, and I thought, yeah, sometimes I did. But the flip side of that is actually my niece said to me, "You don't go to work, you just chat to your friends all the time." And I think my network became both a source of knowledge, right? So I love finding things out about people. I'm so curious. But also a wonderful group of friends. And I have friends all over the world now. And I suppose if you think about it from that point, you know, it can sound a little bit mercenary where you say, you know, I want to be with someone who enriches me. But I think that's what it is. You know, you get that vibe off someone, don't you? And they excite you and they're inspiring. And sometimes they'll compliment you. Like I said, I hate writing, but I've got lots of pals that I work with who are very good at it and can dash things off really quickly. So I suppose that's what the network does, is it complements you and what you can achieve, and it sort of helps you on your way. It's like having a boat full of people all rowing in the same direction.
Yeah, another thing I would add is, for me, for instance, my network has been critical in the jobs I find. Of course, most of the jobs have been through connections, and it makes a big difference. And another thing is, when I go to conferences, when I interact with people, for instance, working in the same area, being appreciated. For me, I come back from these conferences after talking to these people, when I see that they appreciate my work and when I see their enthusiasm, I come back with lots of enthusiasm myself. And it's important to feel appreciated, and it's important to be surrounded by people who are really, like I said, like complementing what you do and who really give you that drive. And I think it makes a big difference.
Although if you're an introvert, be careful about your energy levels when you do that. Sorry.
That's exactly the point I was about to say. That's exactly. So the bit that I want to add is that personalities do come into that. So having a good network is very important. I think that aspect is very clear. But where it can be challenging is for people who are perhaps introverted. But I think the key thing is to find out ways that you can build your network. Because within, especially looking at data scientists, we at my workplace, we did a bit of a team exercise and discovered that my full team are just a bunch of introverts. But the truth is, while we're introverts, we get along quite well because we are able to still create some kind of connection through our introversion or introvertedness. So there are ways to find ways around dealing with some of that kind of introverted kind of behavior. So there are people just like you around. You just need to make sure you build your network around people who are quite on the same wavelength as you.
Well, just to add a little bit on that one was networking at many different levels, at more local and more broadly level, and to see networking for whatever purpose as well. And there are different way to look at networking. The one that I would only like to add was about I would encourage anybody, young especially young researchers, really to go out yourself and taking part in meetings like this conference at a local, national, or international level, and both if you have the opportunity to present your work, but even just participating, I'm sure you will get from event like this some inspiration, ideas to work on that. At event like this, this is a great opportunity for networking. You to, especially if you're presenting, let people know the kinds of work you do. Yeah.
Thank you all. Our time is up. Thank you all for your very helpful contributions. Thank you to those who asked questions. And may I just add, so this is the first annual meeting of UKOMAIN. We are particularly keen to serve early career researchers, so this will not be the first attempt at doing that, and do get in touch if you see ways in which we can serve you. Thank you all very much. Let's show our appreciation for the panel.